I don't know where that came from. Welcome back to my channel. We're dirty. Forget it. We're so excited to have you. Oh, guess what? I'm clapping again. My channel. Welcome back to my channel. The channel. Wendirenay here, so excited to have you. This week's guest, I cannot wait to introduce you to Alex. Alex is in the health and wellness industry. She is a body image coach and she is an XJW. One of the most interesting things I had found about Alex is that not only is she able to sit in the pain of someone in their late teens, early 20s, but also someone who is walking proof that you can make healthy changes and learn to love yourself again. Before we begin, I want to thank you so much for liking, subscribing, sharing our videos. Like I say in every video, it just means for every subscriber, it just means more and more people are finding out that there is health and wellness and joy and positivity on the other side of high control religion and narcissistic abuse. Be sure to hit that little bell at the top of your YouTube where you will get notified every time we post a new video. And in addition to that, we have TikTok where we have some interesting conversations in the comments. So let's go. Alex, I'm so excited to have you on the channel and the podcast. Thank you so much for being here. Little backstory, Alex and I met on this little app called Matchmaker where you interchange podcast stories. And so I was excited. It was coincidental that Alex was actually looking at my channel and found out, hey, she's an XJW too. So Alex, thank you so much for being here and talking about this.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Oh, my pleasure. Let's hear a little bit about your backstory and JWs to now. What woke you up? Just, yeah, let's hear it all.
Goodness, that is, I'm a high level
question.
Yeah, because it's so much. So I've disfellowshipped when I was 21. I struggled with that. It was probably one of the hardest parts of my life. And I think formed a lot of what I do now and why I'm where I'm at. When I was disfellowshipped, basically, I still lived at home. My parents, basically I mean, they let me go to the meetings with them and like all of this stuff. But I think the hardest part was like halfway through, about 6 months into my disfellowship, I wrote the letter and like said, hey, like I have come back, like I'm sorry for what I did, and went and had the meeting with the elders. I don't even remember what that's called now. And yeah, they basically said I had not had enough time for repentance. And when that kind of happened, my parents then said, well, now no longer, we don't want you to associate with your little brother, which was like, so I basically cut off my family. So not only did I like at 21 lose like all my friends that I'd known my whole life, I now didn't like necessarily have a connection with my family. And then I eventually I got drunk and I came home and my parents kicked me out. And that was like the end of that kind of like life for me. And I think, and I mentioned that story because it's been, we were talking about this. I was kicked out at 21. I'm now 35. So it's been 14 years and the healing process is long, especially if you're not prepared for what healing is going to take. If it's been your whole life, if your parents are still JW, if all your friends, it's just kind of deconstructing is a great word. Healing, deconstructing all of that and kind of coming back to yourself was a very, very hard process for me.
What did that look like for you? Because when you were disfellowshipped and you couldn't come back, did you still believe it at that point? Or did that also take time? Or were you considered POMI where you're physically out, but still mentally in?
Yeah, I think it was, the physically out, but mentally in. I was a pioneer. Crazy story. So when I talk about being invested, and I think a lot of my early JW life was very works-based, and I wanted to be accepted. I wanted to be loved. I wanted to be seen. And like the only way I could do that was by presenting this perfect JW person to everybody. Wow. And
all of us go through that. It's amazing.
And so when I like eventually stepped out of that, like after that initial, I remember walking out of that elder meeting when they basically said, you haven't shown repentance. And I was like, you don't have these conversations with God. I remember like specifically praying to God this whole time about like when I was disfellowshipped, that 6 months period, just like, I'm sorry. Like, I know, what I did was wrong. And I like pled and talked to him and I felt like he was hearing me. So like when that happened, it was like, okay, I don't know anything anymore. And I felt very disconnected. When my parents kicked me out, I did still go to Kingdom Hall quite a bit, not quite a bit. I went every Sunday. 90% of the time I was in a very rough, world with drinking. A lot of the times I would show up on Sunday morning and I had been out drinking the whole night before. I felt so disconnected and lost. It's a really, even now I kind of still think about it and just, I don't know who that person was. She was not she didn't know who she was. She was a shell of a person for a long time.
Trauma.
Yeah.
That's what it does to you. So you're 21, you get disfellowshipped, you're cut off from everybody, you're told you can't come back. Talk us through the healing process, what that looked like for you. Because for many people, when we realize it's a cult, we don't believe it anymore, they want immediate relief. It's not really realized how much of a process versus an event it really is. So in your opinion, what that looked like for you?
I took the hard road. I definitely did a lot of self-sabotage is what I spend a lot of my early time doing. That it was hard to connect because when you've grown your whole life as a JW and like this is all you believe in, this is all you know, this is all your family knows, and you're just like, how do I rebuild this life? Who am I? It took me a long time. I think I was doing anything and everything to hide the pain for a long time. What really kind of helps me healing, and not that everybody has the opportunity to do this, but I moved plenty of states away when I was 24, I think 25, because I finished college and I got a degree in teaching. And so I moved to North Carolina. And when I made that move, it was freeing. It was freeing for me to kind of be out from under, like sometimes when you're seeing the same things, you're driving past the Kingdom Hall, driving past your family's home, you run into people that, you know, from JW world in public, and it brings up all those feelings. And I don't think I could have eventually healed unless I had removed myself, because I had been so entrenched in it. And like, that was the only way. And I think a big portion of that healing was understanding that I don't have to earn love. Number one, I don't have to have people love me because I am this best version of me. And that took me a long time. But I think that's like the main. And how did I come to that? Trial and error. I mean, my life after a JW was really hard. I did jump immediately into a relationship because once again, acceptance and love was a big focus of what I wanted in life. So I immediately jumped into a relationship. We were together for a long time, and then it ended up not working out because I had not healed any of that pain. I wanted him to be this person that I was still connected, like this relationship idea I had from JW world. And I wanted myself to still be that. It was just I was young, so I had to go through a lot of hard stuff. For an adult, if you are in a place where it's like, I want to step away and how do I heal? Take some time to be by yourself. 100% take some time to be by yourself and like write a list of like what I've grown to know about, like, or what I think is real, and then challenge those thoughts that you think are real with like reality and truth. And that's hard. There's probably not some of those things you're not going to have answers to, like a relationship with God. What does that look like outside of JW world? A relationship with myself. But when you start challenging those beliefs you've grown up with, and you start to kind of like live life in a way where you can start to accept yourself and see yourself as like an acceptable, lovable human being without any external validation from anybody else. This is all internal. Then you can kind of start to see some of those truths that you thought were truth are not real. And that was, I think, a big eye-opening event for me and what helps me to really heal.
My goodness, you are such an inspiration. Because in the Reddit group, we see so many people in their late teens, early 20s who are being kicked out, who are going through this. Interestingly, when we look at being raised in a JW, we don't heal that. We do tend to look for those behaviors, look for those kinds of narcissistic leaders in our life because that's comfortable to us. It's not that we're drawn to that type. It's just that's really all we know. So we tend to repeat those patterns because they're comfortable to us. And in the healing aspect, I mean, just the way that you talk about it in your professional experience as someone who does body image coaching, I'm especially drawn to that topic because of the way this religion teaches women and men that your self-esteem really doesn't matter and your self-worth is kind of in the toilet. So I'm really interested to know how, based on what you went through, how you got to where you're at now and how you can encourage others and what exactly is a body image coach. So the floor is yours, Alex.
What brought me to I'm more recently into body image coaching. I've been doing it like the internal work for a long time, 3 or 4 years, but actually promoting my body image coaching has been more of a recent kind of thing. But I think it's very important as someone who was raised at JW, like I said, that shell of a being person, like you mentioned, you immediately jump into like narcissistic controlling relationships. And I think what you value is your outside, about like how people view. I think that's probably the hardest thing, the truth that kind of like really nailed the coffin in for me was when I realized that all that person that I was in JW was like a shell of who I was. It was someone that I wanted presented to everybody else, but not who I was internally. And I think that kind of relates to how we struggle with body image, because body image is all this belief that the outside, the external, is the most valuable and most important part of who we are. And we don't take enough time to dive deep inside and see who we are internally and value ourselves internally, be able to express that in a way that kind of just, I don't know, when you can let go of body image as, or your external view of yourself as the most important, you start to like realize this amazing person you are on the inside, these characteristics, these strengths that maybe you hadn't really tapped into, this person that can be a go-getter that maybe wasn't like you were shy and scared of because of your body. Like it's a transformational process. And I think for me, coming out of JW world, for a long time, I struggled with that transformational process because I still wanted people to see and value me based on my outside. And I had not connected with who I was and where I was powerful on the inside. And that's why I'm a body image coach. And that's a big portion of what I do, is help people not only reframe the way that they see themselves on the outside. And it's not saying that you're going to just sit there, wake up every morning and you're like, I love myself, I love my body, it's amazing, because it's not, that's not realistic. The realistic part is to see like, okay, my body helps me do these amazing things on day-to-day life. It helps me hug my best friends. I can, go out and roller skate or whatever it is that I love to do. But that's what my body helps me do. But who I am and what makes me valuable is like what I am on the inside and what I bring to the table, and like just connecting with that inner person. To get to that point, it takes a lot of like almost understanding. It's crazy because like what I had to do with deconstructing JW world is how I have to deconstruct body image. Like, how do I view food? How do I view fitness? How do I view like what lies am I telling myself? And like, what truth is there out there? How do I feel? How do I like, and so connecting with that, it's such a connected process, and it's something that takes a while. It's similar to deconstructing from JW world. It takes a while to kind of get there, but when you do, it's just like freeing. I don't know if there's any better way to describe it, but free. It's like
free. And that's what people are looking for, especially in the social media age. This must be, when I was a kid, of course, I was your typical gawky teenager who wasn't good enough and struggling with her self-worth. But at least I grew up when there wasn't social media and the possibility of everything being recorded and kept indefinitely. So for teenagers in the early 20s who are in our audience right now, and I know they're there, a lot of them are being shunned. What are steps they could take to get a different relationship with them? I mean, you mentioned that it starts on the inside. It's obviously a mindset transformation, and transformation takes time. It's little steps over a long period of time. So what are some behaviors that people can set into motion now while they're chemo, while they're just sitting there and like, I don't know what to do, but I want to do something and I feel really crappy about myself? What are some steps people could take immediately?
I think one of the first things is to really tap into what lights you up. And it's probably not going to be something you're going to be so sure of at first. Or you might be afraid of. It could be something like this, kind of like being out and being upfront and putting videos out there that's not who I am. Like, I'm more of a reserved, quiet person, but I know that this is something I'm good at. And this is something, the topic that I'm talking about makes me passionate. So you can kind of overcome some of those things that you're a little timid about because you feel so passionate. So what are you passionate about? What do you care about? And like, I think, especially if you're still kind of transitioning or in that JW world, being okay with it being not something that's like okayed by the church. I think that's a first and scary step.
Even taking pride in your own talents is frowned upon. Then you have people who their sexuality is completely, whatever that is for them, it's always wrong. No matter what it is. To even have sexual feelings, they say it's normal, but also not normal. So everything is just very confusing. And you're right, it does end up affecting our body image. Yes.
Yeah, that wrong concept being such a focus. I feel like that was another big hurdle that I had to overcome, was like, I'm not wrong for wanting to go to college and get a degree and be self-sufficient as a woman and know that I don't have to get married at 18 because like, that's what I should be doing. Like, I'm not wrong for wanting to do that. And that took me, I mean, it took me a while to overcome. I still went to college, but like, even during that time, I was like, am I doing the right thing? Is this okay? And you have to throw out wrong is, and like, maybe it's going back to like diving into what does wrong mean to you, and how has like this concept of wrong guided your behavior against like who you are or what you care about. I think that was one of those things that for me was, this concept of we have to be can't integrate with the outside world, and we can't, I don't even remember the word we used to talk about people on the outside, but
Worldly.
Well, there you go.
It's wrong versus right, which I try and help people to appreciate. Healthy versus unhealthy is a lot simpler and almost easier for us to personalize for ourselves. Because
absolutely,
like one man's food is another man's poison, right? So you could eat something that doesn't really sit well with me, and behaviors can be the same too. I mean, certainly there are obvious things that are unhealthy, but really it's not a matter of wrong versus right, because who molds that? Right? Who determines that?
And you bring up a good point too. That's also another way that health, body image, and health ties together is we are taught, like you said, healthy versus unhealthy. We're taught what's unhealthy. We're taught that a thin body is the only way to be healthy. We're taught, but it's not actual health for you. And health for you in your body is there's no right or wrong. Because if there was a magical prescription for someone to be thin and beautiful and like exactly what everybody should be, somebody would have done it by now. And like it would be out there and they'd make $1 million, but that's not reality. The reality is that our insides and our bodies and genetics and health is so individualized that you can't let a BMI or things that you've been told your whole life dictate who you are. And that goes back, I mean, that's a common core thing with like trying to come over being in a JW world, is like you've been told all of this your whole life. Maybe you should tap into what actually makes you feel good.
Well, modesty and purity culture too is toxic. It really is. I am a woman. I was a teenage girl. I have a daughter. I'm not all about selling it for the public, but there is a measure of the toxicity of purity culture, again, bringing us wrong or right, and it affects our self-worth. So can you speak to someone who maybe is raised with this whole immodest, like, I mean, for women, even our skirt length, we were measuring it. It's just, there's always this feeling of, I'm just not enough. I don't look right. And then you get modesty and purity culture on top of the social media age, on top of societal norms. And it's like, what can we actually do to actually feel good about ourselves sometimes?
And I think owning that part took me a while, because I'm still very conservative.
Yeah, I am too.
I feel like understanding how that kind of culture actually impacted my ability to have healthy relationships was something that kind of helped me. So like as a teenager, if you're young, you're probably trying, not only are you young and have hormonal things that are just happening naturally anyways, but if you've been in this kind of purity culture, you're being told that these feelings are wrong, or that, like seeing your body change and like accepting and being okay with those changes, and, showing some leg if you want to show some legs, whatever, but like that's wrong. What it does is distort your viewpoint of yourself. And so then when you go into a relationship with someone else, you're a distorted viewpoint, you're a distorted person, you're not yourself. And what that does is it creates, that's what happened in my first major relationship, was I jumped right into it in JW world, coming out of it, and I wasn't myself. I didn't know myself. And so I struggled with like, what makes me attractive? What makes someone find me attractive? Do I have to, I think you can also go the opposite. If you've been in purity culture, then just go like, well, I'm just going to show everything to everybody.
That's right.
And
That's right.
And you think that's how you're going to get, but the core of that is you want to be accepted and loved for who you are. And that's not going to come from anybody else. The only person that can give that to is yourself. And I think JW culture, you're trained to think it has to become from the congregation and from other people around you. And that is a big, big, big no. It's coming from inside.
I wish I would have had you all those years ago. I'm so grateful to know you, because, and this is now what I'm teaching my children, is that had I had someone tell me, number one, that this is normal, but number two, you do and don't do things based on your self-worth. You choose people in your life. You choose who gets to put their hands on you. Mm-hmm. You choose that based on your self-worth. My mindset was, if I do this, I'm going to end up in the back room. it was always a consequence. It was transactional. It was never, well, no, I'm digging my heels in the ground and this is what is right for me. This feels good for me. And I think that we don't have enough of that going on where people make choices based on their self-worth. Do you think that that also can contribute to body image when you're not taught that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I feel like when you don't value yourself, and I think one of the cautions I would say is like, this is why this work, self-worth work is so important, because when you do step outside, the number one thing I allowed myself to do is be taken advantage of. And like, that's a lie that you hear a lot in like the JW world, that you step outside and everybody's going to take advantage of you. But it's not that everybody does that. It's the fact that you don't value yourself. So you kind of let it happen because you haven't come into like who you are as a person, and you haven't understood I'm a valuable person, and it's okay to want to be sexual with someone and have a relationship with someone. It's okay to do that. But then I get to choose that. I get to make the choice. No one else makes it for me. It's because I feel good, not because I want someone to like make me feel good or make me feel better. It's because I feel like I'm in a comfortable spot and this person cares about me. And it's like, I think I went the opposite, and I was like, just anybody and everybody, like, take advantage.
So did I. Yeah. Everybody knew more than me. Everybody knew what was right for me. I was always the girl who was like, is it me? Or I was always looking for external validation. In your experience, when it comes to trying to gain confidence, it's the little decisions we make that slowly build our confidence. And I love that you said body image is not just about being thin or looking like somebody else's version of beauty, especially being the social media age. All you see on social media with regard to JWs is hashtag best life ever. Everybody looks so perfect. They look so spiritual. And even then, JWs are programmed to look at these pictures and think they're not even spiritual enough. Forget about the body image stuff. But now we're going deeper internally, because we were taught from a young age that young people ask book, dress like this, look like this, look like the Bethelites, look like the people in the videos. What? That's not who I am at all.
I haven't thought about young people ask in years, but I remember those videos. I remember the videos, the book, and I think, first of all, you have to remember most of social media is fake. That was probably one of the biggest realizations when I think I spoke about this earlier, but when I realized that the world we were curating was fake, it wasn't reality. And I think we forget that we have to live and be present in ourselves. And I think a good step, if you're in that beginning phase of like, I'm so used to seeing this perfectly curated world outside of like, even in JW or outside of JW, this is what's so good. Turn your phone off. Like, maybe take a break from Instagram. I'm a big person who believes in like social media fasts. I fast on Sunday from social media for the most part, because I need a break. I need a break from like, because what you do is the more you feed yourself these images, and this is what they know, the more you focus on these images, the more you think about them, the more you think that's reality, and the less disconnected you are to yourself and what is reality. So it's important to take the fast, to turn off. If it's like an obsession, turn it off. Take it off your phone for a hot minute. Maybe only just decide to see it on your computer so you can step away. You don't have it on your phone. And I think that'll reconnect you with like reality and presence, instead of seeing this like perfect world that is far from reality.
Well, this is also affecting people's mental health too. Like people post their highlight reel on social media, and we're comparing our messy lives, our real lives, to these highlight reels. And so that can also affect, no matter what age we are, either no matter age, no matter gender, we are always affected by other people's perception of us. But I love that you said, if we can calibrate our perception of ourselves, none of that will matter at some point once we figure out our self-worth. Alex, what would one need to do to get in touch with you? What do sessions look like with you if someone were to contact you? Because I think this is really important for people coming out of this kind of a lifestyle.
And I'm definitely here to help. So my Instagram is Grow Grit Fit, and you can contact me there. But if you just add gmail.com to that, you can email me directly and we can get in contact there. Facebook is Grow Grit Fit as well. I'm available. You can, even if you look me up at ALEXANDRA Hart and you want to if that's what you remember. Any way you can get in contact with me, I'm all over social media. So definitely reach out to me. I do focus on one-on-one sessions right now, but I would be open to creating a group session if that's what we're interested in, especially if it's something with healing with JW world. And that's really where a lot of it's sometimes easier to do that in a group, so you don't feel so alone, especially because the process of moving out of JW world is a very lonely process. I'm open to doing both.
So thankful to have you as one of our resources for up and coming people who are just, I mean, we have counselors, we have all kinds of people, but sometimes we're just left to feel like, what is this? Like my body and my mind are just completely disconnected. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I remember just briefly over the summer, I was very sick with COVID. And I remember actually having a conversation with my body. And I would say, if you could just get me through this, I will not focus on all of your flaws. And I literally talked to myself through a meditation and said that to myself. And now I still remember that every day, where I look in the mirror and I'm like, oh, I don't like this, or I don't like that about myself, because we all do it. But now I do my best to focus on looking in the mirror and thinking, I like this about you, but most importantly, I like the way you said that word. I like the way you used that. I like your mind. I like the way you treated that human being. And I think when we look at ourselves that way, that makes us look at our physical self a little bit differently, when we can see the good in ourselves.
Absolutely. And I know it sounds so cliche to say the transformation is from the inside out, but it truly is, because then you stop picking at the outside as far as like the imperfections, because you see yourself in a very different light. You see yourself as like a whole human being instead of just a body or just a part that you don't like. You're seeing yourself as whole. And so you're still going to see those parts you don't like, but you're going to be like, you know what, the rest of me, who I am, is pretty freaking amazing. So
you're going to have perspective. I also think this is really important as to the kind of people we hang out with. You know, if we're filling our minds with junk, that it's like if we're watching nothing but negativity, or if we're around people who don't really fill us up, around people who are critiquing us or who have ways to make us just feel kind of crappy about ourselves, I think that's really important too. That's probably all encompassing in this coaching program that you have for people.
I think when you have poor body image, you don't respect your own boundaries. So, and you're willing to let whatever happen. So part of body image coaching is to start to understand and step into what boundaries mean. And you start small. I'm not saying you like put all the boundaries up, but you start small by saying, I'm not feeling like attending that event today, or this person isn't making me feel good, so I can unfollow them, or I don't have to talk to them. It's just, and once you can start to set up boundaries, then it's like you're taking care of yourself, and yourself feels taken care of. And it's just all part of that process as well.
I love that. And I think boundaries are such a big, it's really hard to set up boundaries when you're kind of trained to be a doormat and everybody gets to have an opinion on your life from childhood onward. Wow. Alex, thank you so much. I hope to our audience that they're going to reach out to you and to know that you are now a resource, not just for XJWs, but also people who are watching this, whatever it is, we just want people to feel good about themselves so they can start to heal.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I had a great time.
Of course. And for those of you who are listening on the podcast, all of Alex's information is in the description box as well. I'll see you next time, Alex. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much for watching. If you want to reach out to Alex, all of her information is in the description box. I really think that body image is extremely important to learn about and to adopt a healthier mindset about your inner self, your truer self, your true self. If you want to be on the show, if you have a skill, a talent, or a trade you'd like to share with our audience, please email me at wendirenay@gmail.com or go to wendirenay.com. That be on our show, little tab right there. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.